Wow, this is going to be a bit strange this week. I don't know how we're going to adjust to not having guests either in studio or virtually.
I know. It's weird, right?
It's Tasker and Ritter, Tailgate Talk. Wags out. Of course, he's the pitching coach for the, Lake Country Dockhounds?
You bet.
Baseball team, and they've started their spring training, so he's busy with that. Did get a turkey. If you follow us on Instagram, @on the tailgate, and see a picture of the bird that he got. I do have one bone to pick with Wags about the picture of the turkey that he took. He took the time to fan out the tail feathers, like the fan really nicely. But you notice that like none of the fan is shown in the photo?
Yeah, it's cropped off.
It was like, wait,
come on,
what are you doing?
Wags.
Like that's the whole point.
Yeah,
it's like showcase the whole bird.
I know. Isn't that funny?
I had to poke a little fun at Wags because that's what happens when someone isn't around. You get to poke a little fun at them. Right. So like whenever I'm not somewhere, I expect that people poke fun at me and things. But
we will.
It was awesome the last couple of weeks having people in studio talking about things. But we've got a lot of stuff to get to this week on the show. I got to get some news stuff here in just a bit. But I've got a story to share about an incident that happened to me recently. And I'm curious if something like this has happened with you. And a spinoff of something we discussed or briefly touched on last week when Vince and John were in studio with us. There's an unknown bass fishing cult-like culture that I'm guessing you've not heard of. And we just dabbled a bit into something of it last week, and I thought, boy, this would be a great time to like bring it up and really dig into this and talk about this unknown cult-like culture. So we'll get to that coming up later on the show. But wanted to start, again, speaking of things that we discussed last week, I talked about my kayak build that I wanted to do. I've got it with me.
Oh, you
Check
do?
this bad boy out.
Holy cow. That is way bigger than I ever thought it was going to be.
So it's got...
wow.
I took a DeWalt T-Stack. It's one of their deep toolboxes. And so, it's got the latches on it, obviously. Let me put the handle down. And when you open it up, I've got... here, all my tackle. It fits
everything
these
you
plano
need.
trays. A bunch of my plastics are on here. I'm going to kind of change it up, and I want to do the plastics in something else. Battery, the Amped Outdoors battery here that good friend John Resnick hooked up with is set off the side over here. Fix it up. When you close it, there's 3 rod holders on each side of it. Then if you look in the front here, there's a port that's just like your standard SAE port that my fish finder will plug right into that.
Sure.
So it stays outside. And then the side here is the switch to flip it on and off.
Yeah.
And then there's obviously the voltmeter. There's USB port on the side here, so I'll be able to run a cord right to my GoPro for when I film stuff on my YouTube channel. And a cigarette lighter where if like for some reason this port were to go out, I can plug in one of those.
Plug it in there.
USB connector things here. Got little slots here that go with these, the whole different tools and stuff. And then the top of this box opens up, and that's where all my terminal tackle lives.
Wow.
So this is my go one thing, everything, I talk about it because I car top my kayak or, SUV top my kayak every time. So I wanted something that was like one unit I can just grab, throw it in the back of my yak, and I'm good to go. So I throw this in the back of my yak, set my rods in it, plug my fish finder, as I set the fish finder on the rail, plug it in, and I'm off ready to roll. So that is the ultimate tackle trait, tackle
That's
case,
intense.
tackle.
And it looks so nice too. I mean, I have to compliment the quality,
The
of
craftsmanship.
That. It looks really good.
So, fun fact, I'm going to show you this.
I got to see how much that weighs.
Do you see? Yeah, it's not that much actually. I mean, it's got a lot of tackle in it,
Right.
so it feels a little heavier.
That's not terrible though.
No,
That's actually.
I got to post a photo of this, and I think I'm actually going to do a video of it for my channel because a lot of people I think that look for things like this. It's
Yeah,
like,
this is nice.
so you look at the side of the tackle where the rod holders are there. You see what that's... I needed a spacer. I needed to space it out a little bit because the flange on the top of the rod holders would catch the lid, right? You get a 6-pack of craft beer. It comes with those plastic little round things that snap on.
Nice.
I needed that for a spacer. I have a whole bunch in my house, so I was able to just like clip off those round and use them perfectly as spacers that go with the nuts. So...
Yeah, man. As much as you've talked about this, I was not expecting this. I knew it would be. I've seen the teaser photos, but wow, I'm impressed, man. Looks
I
nice.
feel like I should start building those and just selling them. I feel like this is my next like $1 million idea. I should just start building these. Like, the kayak crate, the crate to hold tackle and hold rods is like, that's like the big thing. But I've taken it to the next level now with doing like this kayak crate, ultimate tackle storage system. So, and I can swap out the trays to different stuff too. So based on what body water I'm going to, I'll be able to throw in a different, I've got like kind of my spring set up there. I've got a lot of, crankbaits and jerk baits and spinner baits and stuff in there right now, but I'll be able to swap it out to other stuff. I can go, a jig heavy box or something as the times change. So, yeah.
Wow. Well, I have to say I'm impressed. I was not expecting that.
I thought
After all of these corners of the boxes that all I've seen is just the LED light up with your voltmeter and everything.
I suppose, yeah. I've only
That's all
teased,
that I've seen of this thing.
I've only teased a little bit of that,
And,
so yeah. I thought I would show it with you.
Wow. That's impressive. All right, so now you got to have options. Is it a 6-rod holder or a 4-rod holder? What size to fit different compartments?
See, and I've got 6, because minimum 6 rods have to be on my boat.
Right.
I can't fish without at least 6 rods. But yeah.
I like that we talked about that yesterday when I stepped in and saw you, and you're like, I have to have 6 rods. And I'm like, I'm just happy to have 2, so when I knot up the first one, I could just swap it out and grab my other rod.
John Resnick, who was with us last week of the show, he would attest to it and say, what did he say? He's got to spool up like 35 rods that he keeps on his boat. I mean, he's a boat versus kayak that I do.
Yeah.
As bass fishermen, though, we have all kinds of rods. We have specialty rods, specialty situations, and different stuff like that. Which, speaking of the specialty baits and specialty things, that goes into tie with that unknown bass culture we're going to talk about later on in the show here. But got an update. Want to jump into this, too. The corner crossing debate we talked about on the show.
Yeah.
Those hunters from Missouri that were out in Wyoming that apparently did a corner crossing, and they were getting sued and this and that, and the whole thing went into legislature. Well, it was a very short trial, I think, and they were found not guilty of violating the corner crossing.
I'm happy with that. I'm happy with that result.
I think so, too. This was like super high profile. What was it? Was that November, December when this really became like to life?
Yeah, it popped up around then towards the end of the season. I mean, you would figure it would happen during the hunting season.
So basically, if you're not familiar with it, there's a lot of public land and private land that they're all in this big grid pattern out west, especially in the state of Wyoming, where you'll have, it'll be like public, private as you go north and south, whatever. So you catch these corners where you're trying to get from one piece of public land to the public land next door, but it's a like literally a square corner. Can you just like cross that corner and do it? Well, because like if you take it down to the most minute small thing, you technically like areas of your body would cross in the air over into other people's property.
Right.
And that's where this argument came, was they actually like fenced it off, and these guys took a ladder and like climbed over this fence.
Nice.
With the ladder.
Like an A-frame ladder.
Right.
Just put it right over the corners.
That's how they did it, and that's how they got caught, and that's how they got in trouble. And basically what they're trying to say was that owning the land isn't just the dirt, it's the airspace above it.
Right.
That's what they were going by, but the legislature there in Wyoming saying, yeah, no, that's not the case. These guys aren't guilty. They can do that. But, I mean, what exactly does it mean? Like everything is still in the air. They say the possibility of lasting legal precedent will depend largely on whether Wyoming's district chief judge, Scott Scandival, will dig deeper into the issue and whether the Unlawful Enclosures Act of 1885, which complicates access to public land via corner crossing, would become a thing that they would then pass forward to the Wyoming legislature onto the governor to try and be signed. So there's nothing nationally that's going to come of it like right now. There's nothing that says like because these guys were found not guilty that you can corner cross.
That's the precedence for all the other
I think it should be, though. Like we talk about all the time land access and making sure that land is accessible to all, especially when it's public land. When you get private lands that are like butted up, that like that's tough. Like a very simple corner, and again, I'm not a private landowner, so it's hard for me to speak on it, and sounds like unfair for me to be like, well, why don't you just let me walk the corner across your property? I get there's all kinds of scenarios that get involved with that, but yeah.
I see how this is going to go. They're going to, and this is just a hypothesis, so something's going to happen where they're going to have these corners that are butting up against one another, and they're the private land. So it's like the triangle, or the diamond that is coming together. They're the corner. They're going to say, we need to have a 5-foot lane or a 10-foot lane in between here so that we don't have this problem anymore. Then the landowners are going to say, okay, you want to buy 6 square feet of my property? It's $100,000. Or like some obnoxious amount.
Always comes back to money.
Right. And because they're going to have, a problem with it. It's going to be a thorn in their side that they've already lost this initial battle. And they're going to come back then and say, okay, well then buy this land from us and price it at some obnoxious amount,
I could see that happening. I could see that being a case, and because it's government money and nobody really cares how much money gets spent, they'd be like, all right, here's $100,000 for 10 square feet of your property so that we can have this 8-foot lane go right in between.
Now property lines are going to look weird. They're going to be these strange little like octagons, hexagons.
Right.
Making it a mess.
And it's not as common, but, there's also been stories where there's the public land that actually, or the private land that surrounds a public parcel, which I think we've talked about that at some
Landlocked
point.
situations, yeah.
Where they've got to have the easement in order to access that. So, does the private landowner buy that adjacent public property if it were to ever go for sale? Okay, well then what do they do with that easement in order to access it? Because there's no point in having a private land without being able to access it.
Yeah, a buddy of mine, his dad had a piece on the west shore of the Bay of Green Bay that was exactly that we duck hunted a lot as kids, like in high school.
Yeah.
And there was no way to it. So he had an easement set with a guy that lived right next door to it. So we'd have to drive down his driveway and then once we got to the land, then dodge off into the bushes basically off the side of this guy's driveway, and then that's how we accessed to get there into the. It was basically just
weird.
200 feet of shoreline that went back 100 yards or whatever. So it was just it was a giant marsh. He owned a chunk of marsh on the west shore, but it was a great place we can go and hunt and not have to worry about people because it's private land.
Yeah.
But did you catch this news story that broke about this Texas restaurant that was busted with 381 illegal shark fins?
I did not, but I know that that's a thing.
But here's the thing. It's not even about that they did it. I love that anytime these busts happen, they have to take a photo like it's a cartel drug bust. So the picture posted here is these two state law enforcement, Texas game wardens standing there with buckets, a couple of bags of wrapped up something, and all of these shark fins laid out across the parking lot. It's cocaine.
I was going to say on the table, but the parking lot, I guess, for 380 of them.
Why do they have to do this with everything? They take the these agents. They're like, there's a dog, and they're looking, they're smiling at the camera, like, hi, look, we got all the
Maybe that's an evidence thing that they have a photo of all of it.
I get that, but why do they have to be in the photo?
Oh yeah,
is what I'm saying.
Well,
they're in the photo, smiling like it's a family Christmas card.
Yeah, well, they're proud of it.
Oh,
that's their grip and grin. How about that? That's
you know
their
what?
Grip and grin.
There you go. They say the fins are often retained for use of a traditional dish known as shark fin soup.
I thought that was illegal, forever ago. And how does a restaurant just put that on the menu?
Yeah, they were making a bootleg.
Yeah,
I guess there's some weird thing where people can catch sharks and just cut the fins off. Is what they think could be happening. But yeah.
Because I've heard those stories too, which is really trash. But
what's in the bags? By the way, as I'm looking at this photo, I don't know what's in these bags. Is that meat? Because all the fins are laid out, and there's a couple of 5-gallon buckets. So are the buckets full of soup? What's in the buckets?
Maybe.
What's in the bags? Yeah. What's in the bag?
What's in the bag? Yeah, so you go in there. So I love this. So I can see this now. I walk in. Sherry and I go in. We're gonna have dinner there. We know that this illegal soup is there. They're going to say, oh, what would you like to eat? Oh, yeah, well, I'll take the mahi-mahi, and then, I'll also take the special soup for an appetizer, please. How do you even order it then?
You got to be
that's what I want to know.
You got to have a code
we'll take
word.
You
got to be like a sub shop that's fronting something else, and you ask for extra lettuce.
Right.
You got to have that.
You got to say it the right way. I'll take double lettuce, please, or something like that. Something that's very strange, so that they definitely know what you're ordering. Weird.
Oh, so yeah,
wow.
Shark fins and
yikes.
Law enforcement officers posing with photos there. Anyway, but we got a lot of stuff to get to. So we're going to take a quick little break here. Come back. We talked about my cool box build. By the way, if you want to see a photo, I'll have it up on our Instagram @on the tailgate. You can see the ultimate kayak crate called Kayak Box thing that I've been talking about for a couple of weeks and finished product of that. We're going to talk about that unknown bass fishing cult-like culture.
It's hard to say.
It is very hard to say. And it's also hard to focus on it because I've got a story going through my head of something that happened to me recently that I'm curious has ever happened to you. And it has to do with something I found in my home. We'll get to that next as we continue Tailgate Talk. It's Ritter, and if you listen to any one of my shows, you know how much I really enjoy fishing and how much I enjoy fishing in Canada with Ballard's Black Island on Ontario's Lake of the Woods. Well, right now, they have a handful of select dates open for summer, and they're offering a 2-for-1 special based on single angler rates. Yeah, that's right. You've got access to multi-species trophy fishing in Canada. I'm telling you, fishing is going to be epic in 2022. Go to blackisland.com and click on their summer fishing special. That's blackisland.com, summer fishing special, and get ready to set the hook. All right, welcome back to Tailgate Talk. It's Ritter and Tasker. Wags out doing his baseball coaching thing today. You can follow us on our socials on the tailgates. I'm at The Real Ritter and at Wisco Bow Hunting. It's Eric Tasker.
Yeah. Plug the new Insta.
There you go. And the TikTok and all that.
And the TikTok, yeah.
By the way, the show brought to you by our friends at Buck Rub Outfitters, and you can check them out in Pewaukee off of Silvernail Road. Wife and I just got out there and did a little shooting with her bow that she's been, waiting to get back to for a while. She's busy with finishing school and all that stuff, so we finally got to get out there. Always love getting out there, and the outdoor range about set to open up, which is one of our favorite parts I know of going out there. So check them out. They got awesome products, not just the bows, but cool stuff they make, from arrow rest, releases, to quivers, to all of it. BuckRubArchery.com. All right, so I mentioned a situation that came about in my house, and a pretty funny story. I'm going to share it with you now. Hold tight. This is one of the funnier moments that's ever happened in my life. I'm going to start prefacing that. So, the other day, my son and I are in the house, and I'm going to go downstairs to go do some laundry. So, in our house, we own an upper and lower duplex. All right, so we live in the upstairs. Everything's down in the basement. So, obviously, our you go in a door, and you got to go upstairs right away. Well, we go out our kitchen door, which leads down the back staircase, goes toward the basement. And we get down to the first landing, which is where the lower unit door is. And there is a bird in the hall, flying in midair. And I look, I'm like, oh my gosh. And it bangs into the back door. And then immediately turns, darts, and shoots above our heads, straight up the stairs, where my son did not close the door to the kitchen behind us. And I now know I have got a bird in my house.
Lovely.
So I went down into the basement to put the laundry in that I was going to do. Got the laundry going.
Right. You might as well at least start that.
Well, here's my thought. Okay, the bird's already panicked and flew up somewhere. If I just immediately turn around and run back up, I'm just going to have the bird more panicked and flying around and going crazy. I'd rather just let the bird find a spot to sit and catch his bearings for a second, and then I can come up and slowly assess the situation and figure out my approach of how I'm going to either catch said bird or what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
Because that's going through my head. I'm like, what am I going to do? What would you be thinking in a situation? You got a bird in your house. What's your plan of attack?
Tennis racket is what I would do.
Tennis racket. All right, so you're going to bludgeon the bird.
It's dying for sure.
Okay.
Because I don't like birds, which, as we're talking about this, I really don't know why I don't turkey hunt, because I really don't like birds at all. So I'm for sure taking a tennis racket, too.
Okay, don't have a tennis racket.
Okay.
All right. I've got a baseball bat. I just don't feel like going that route. I also like wildlife and, do my best in conservation and things.
Wow, thanks.
So I'm like, okay, I got this. The bird is in the living room against a front window. I'm like, okay. I look next to me, there's this big blanket. I'm like, oh, I got an idea. So I grab the blanket and I'm holding it out, stretch my arms as far as I can. Because my thought is, okay, maybe I can have the bird fly toward me and I can either throw the blanket over it to try and catch it and get it outside, or I can at least use the blanket to block so the bird doesn't run into my face or something, because no one wants to get their eye poked out by a bird. Right. My son's laughing. This is the most hysterical thing in the world to him.
Oh,
and he's just loving it, there's a bird in his house. I'm like, bud, not cool. The bird in the house is not a good thing. Well, it's just banging into windows and flying all over. So I'm trying to hurt it. And I wish someone was filming this entire thing, because it was hilarious. It had to have looked funny if you were watching me run around my house chasing this bird and trying to corral it into a spot so I could catch it. A few times I threw the blanket and totally missed. And I'm like, okay, why am I doing this? This is dumb. Let's corral it. And I catch the bird at one point, fly right towards that front door that leads to our front entry staircase. Bing off the glass and takes off. And that's when the light bulb went. I'm like, okay, I got this. I immediately run over to that door, whip the door open, come back and make sure with my blanket that the bird can't leave the living room. And I'm trying to corral it and eventually walk close enough to it and spin it. And it gets into the hallway. And I dart immediately back to the door and slam that door shut.
Sure.
I've now got a bird in the front hallway. I got this. So let's go back down the back staircase, out the back door, and come in the front door.
Okay.
And as
so
soon
the front
as
door's open, it is.
The front door is obviously closed, so this is enclosed in this hallway. As soon as I get to the front door and I walk up to look to make sure the bird's there, boom! Bird bangs right into the glass, right in my face.
Oh,
scared the bejesus out of me. Bird flies back up the top staircase, hits another window, sits down on the stoop, and I'm like, okay. I'm pretty sure if I open the door now, the bird is definitely coming out. I open the door, I take 3 steps back. Bird is gone. Got it.
Okay, so that's best case scenario.
I did. I safely removed the bird from my house.
Yes.
Have you ever had wildlife in your home, Eric Tasker?
In an apartment in college, I had a bat in my apartment.
Oh, my God.
Which was much more horrifying. My roommate was gone. I lived in an 8-plex, and my roommate was gone. I was there by myself. My parents happened to be coming up because I was still playing football at the time. So my parents were coming up for the game that day. And I just remember that I called my parents. I was in my room all night, and I could hear this thing flying around my apartment and making bat noises. And I was just like, it's dark. I'm not going to be able to get out. I don't know where this thing is. It's probably right outside my door, just waiting to murder me. Right? Okay.
Because that's what bats do. They wait outside in the dark.
They will kill you. Okay. So
flying rats.
I had a big bay window. We were on the main floor. We have a big bay window. And I did happen to have a tennis racket. And so when my parents finally got there, I had left the apartment for the day because I was like, well, my dad's going to be here. He'll help me get this thing out of there. So my mom and my nephew are outside the bay window staring at me and my dad trying to wrangle this thing. And, we did not have a tennis racket. We actually borrowed a broom from the neighbor girl. Okay. So...
Because, of course, guys, you did not have a broom.
No, of course not. No, I don't even, no chance. So we borrow the broom. We come back into the apartment, and my mom and my nephew are outside the bay window. It flies directly at my dad. I'm behind him. He swings with the broom. Clear contact, smashes it against the bay window, and my mom and my nephew thought it was going to hit them, even though there was clearly a glass partition between them. Broke the broom.
Oh, my goodness.
He hit it so hard. Or it just happened to be like in the right spot. Cheap plastic broom. So then I had to go and apologize. So then we just scooped it up, got it out the house, and just threw it in the dumpster. So I had to go and then apologize to the girls that live next door to me and say, hey, I'm really sorry. We'll buy you a new broom, but this is what happened. And so I think that's why my natural reaction is to just grab a tennis racket.
Okay. I get
that. So that's my background on it. That's why that is the only time I think that I've had that issue, though.
Wow.
Isn't that something?
Okay, those are great stories, but you're not going to believe what happened to Robin in West Bend.
A couple weeks ago, my grandson comes running up from the basement. He says, Bama, come downstairs. There's a wild animal in the basement. I think he's joking around with me. I said, no, Bama, come down here now. So I run down the basement, and I don't know what I'm looking for. And I look up, and lo and behold, there is a squirrel sitting in my windowsill. Now, little backstory is in the fall, this same squirrel followed my son and grandson home. It was a baby, and we fed it over the winter and got it to live. So I look at her and I say, Lulu, is that you? And she runs up to me and she proceeds to bite me. And I said, okay, you're really hungry. I go outside. I get a cage that we have out there for her. I don't know how long she had been in the basement. We don't know how she got into the basement,
Well, I want to back up to the fact that you were bitten by a squirrel.
It didn't break the skin. She just nipped me. And like I said, I called her, and she ran right up to me. She knew who I was. So thank God it was her and not some random friend of hers that she brought home.
Oh, man.
Don't keep a pet squirrel, all right? That Robin proves point we just don't keep pet squirrels. But that's a cool thing I wanted to point out, too, with Robin mentioned that. If you've got a story of wildlife in your home, I would love to hear it. And there's actually a cool new way that you can share those stories with us. You're listening on the iHeartRadio app. Just use the talkback feature. There's a little microphone that's right there. You can press the microphone, and you can basically send us a message that we'll talk about. And you can just share your story, and we can air portions of what you share with us actually as a part of this show. So that's something cool new that we just unveiled out as being an iHeart exclusive podcast and show, is that you can use the talkback feature to, weigh in on topics. You want to talk about the shark fins, you want to talk about corner crossings, just use that talkback feature at any time while you're listening to the show to send us a voice message.
Love that.
Cool stuff. Would love to hear your stories. I can't wait for the most random, strange wildlife situation story that goes with it. Before we take a break quick, I do want to share one more wildlife story. You mentioned the bats. It made me think of it. I remember as a kid up at my uncle's cottage. We were up there, and they discovered a bat. I don't know, it was like flying around the fire outside or something. But I remember one of my uncles taking a lawn chair, and it's one of the old, like, web-style lawn chairs, over his head, and a rake, like an old, like, leaf rake, and chasing this bat around the yard.
That's
and I guess
awesome.
Eventually, they, again, struck it, got it down, and, like, trapped it, onto the ground under the rake.
Oh, no.
But
And then what?
The lawn chair on the head is what I'll always remember, the randomness of just a lawn chair on your head.
That's amazing.
So I'm surprised that, your dad didn't do the lawn chair over the head before he went to... I thought
we were
standard.
inside the apartment, so it was probably just more functional to just have the broom. But yeah, I was just happy that it was gone.
All right, again, you want to share your wildlife stories? Share them with us now. You can hit us up on our socials, @On the Tailgate, or again, if you're listening on the iHeartRadio app, use your talkback feature to send us a little voice memo. I'm going to talk about that unknown cult-like bass fishing culture. And it stems from a conversation we had last week on the show with Vince and John, which, if you didn't catch that show, we had a lot of fun talking about muskies.
That was a blast, man.
So much fun. It's very obvious how passionate Vince is about muskies in his whole, was it Snapback Outdoors?
Yeah.
You want to follow them, a shameless plug for that on Instagram and their socials. Really cool dude. Super, super passionate about muskies. We're going to have them probably back on the show at some point in time because there's a lot more stories that were not shared on that. But speaking of fishing and muskies, want to bring up as well our friends at Ballard's Black Island in Canada, Ontario, Lake of the Woods. They've got a really cool special going on for some select dates of summer, 2 for 1. It gets you up to Canada to go fishing, and they've got some really cool packages. What's best about Ballard's is it's an all-inclusive Canadian fishing adventure. You think about anytime you travel somewhere to go fishing, be it Canada specifically, if you're trying to DIY on yourself, so you got to bring a boat, you got to get bait, you got to get, gas, food, lodging, all these things. It's as simple as show up at the dock there in Morrison. They pick you up on a boat, bring you to the island. Everything is there covered. They cook all your meals for you. They have lodging with, housekeeping. They take care of everything for you. They've got cable, TV, satellite, internet. I mean, it's high living on an island in the middle of Lake of the Woods, and a really cool experience to catch what I think is some of the most fun smallmouth in the world. It is such a fun smallmouth fishery that I think is kind of those hidden gems that you don't think of when you hear of smallmouth fisheries. I mean, there's a lot in Canada that get a lot of attention, Thousand Islands, things like that. Lake of the Woods is fantastic.
You know what's so cool about that? The one thing, as we've worked with them and building this promotion is that, our boy Gary, he just keeps going back to the fact that, it's been 2 years since these fish have been seeing lures. Mm-hmm. So just what an opportunity to be able to get up there and to be able to just fish these waters that have typically been fished hard and haven't been fished for the last 2 years because of COVID restrictions. So, it's a great time to take advantage of that. And it's pretty nice to just have one thing to take care of, write a check and pay for your trip, and they take care of everything else.
Yeah,
so
2 for 1. I mean, it's buy one, get one. That's like the ultimate deal. If you want to get a hold of them, it's blackisland.com. And tell Gary or Danielle that we sent you. Blackisland.com. Tell them that we sent you, and they'll have to hook you up extra special as you get up there to go fish Canada this year, hopefully. So, I've been talking about this unknown bass fishing cult-like culture, and I shouldn't use cult-like in a bad sense. It's because the people that are involved in this culture are super, super passionate. We brought up last week on the show, we were talking about fishing muskies, glide baits. As Carl Jacquemin would say, the glider. Caught him on the glider. But this culture is the swim bait community. It's crazy how these big swim baits is a thing. And I don't mean like that they are baits, that there's people that specifically only fish these big, giant swim baits. And you've probably heard perhaps about some of them. If you follow bass fishing, you've heard of some of the ones that are used in bass fishing. Like the Storm Arashi is one that comes to mind that Brandon Polinick helped design. I mentioned Carl Zockman. He designed, was it the 178 for Mollucks, their big glide bait. But it goes beyond just glide baits. Within the giant swim bait community, there's all these, like, there's divers, there's soft swim baits. The Huddleston is another pretty popular, known, heard of one. That's, mainly like trout. But what is a giant swim bait? Well, it's just exactly that. It's usually a hard-bodied bait that's the size of your hand and most often bigger, and they're not meant to catch lots of fish. Swim baits and these people that are really like dedicated and hardcore in this swim bait community, the swim bait culture, are all about catching big fish. This is something that really kind of originated in California, but it's spread throughout the rest of the country. It's all about the grind.
Yeah.
And not about catching numbers of fish. You can go over the Senko and flip everywhere and catch, hundreds of bass in a day anywhere. But these guys that are really dedicated in this swim bait culture, in this swim bait community, are all about catching giant fish. And that's where I say the grind. We mentioned musky fishing last week. It ties together.
Yeah.
Fish 10,000 casts and how much work it takes into just casting and casting and work to catch muskies. These guys are doing the same thing to catch giant bass. They don't care about catching lots of bass, just one giant bass. You want a 10-pounder? Like, that's their kind of thing. The price of these baits, though, oh my goodness.
It's insane. When I was out looking last weekend, I'm so gun shy to buy baits because I think they're just so expensive. With my luck, it would be cast one time.
Right. Can you imagine that? Casting and losing a $200 swim bait.
That's absurd.
And that's on the low end of some of these swim baits.
That's just so wild.
There's people that will doll out upwards of $500 for these custom painted limited edition lures.
Not interested in that business.
It's mind blowing. I think it's cool. I love the passion. I love everything about it. I know bullshad is another pretty swim bait. Bullshad swim baits. They're kind of like a super I don't want to say underground, but still kind of like a garage operation.
Yeah,
making custom swim baits. They did a bunch of custom autism ones for Autism
cool.
Awareness Month, and I know there's been a couple of guys that were auctioning those off. If you listen to Dave Mercer's podcast, that came up last week on the show, he had Big Gus, the tattoo artist, that was on his show, and he was really talking about this swim bait culture. In fact, he's the founder and creator of Swim Bait Culture. If you go on Facebook and search out Swim Bait Culture, he does this big, swim bait raffle or event, as they refer to it as via social media, where they raffle off a bunch of these huge swim baits, like thousands of dollars worth of rods and swim baits. I did not know it existed until a few years ago. I mean, I think it's kind of cool. I'm down for it. These baits, though, I kind of would rather just put it on the mantle because they look amazing. They're works of art. And I think maybe that's why people get so passionate about it, is that they're passionate about having something that is truly a work of art and using it in almost an art-like fashion to try and catch these big, giant bass. Where do you catch big, giant bass? I mean, you think of, the standard lakes that you hear of, Fork is the big one that gets a lot of attention now. Santee Cooper in, South Carolina. You got all the Florida strain, any Florida lake is giant bass. But they're all over. You get some of these places that have, a lot of trout in the lakes. Areas in Pennsylvania have showed up where there's, trout lakes. And people have figured out going in there with these big trout look-alike swim baits, catching giant monster bass, just because the forage is there. That's what they're eating. They're eating these trout. And so
that's what they're used to in their diet.
Yeah. I always think of, when I think the Huddleston is always my first, a trout that looks like a Huddleston. That's my first, when I hear the word Huddleston, I think of. But, man, I'm kind of super interested. I'm not saying I want to get into this whole crazy culture, but man, I'm thinking big smallmouth. I kind of feel I got to get the muskie in the kayak first. That's goal. We talked about that last week in the show. After that, I got to have another goal. Is it catch a giant smallmouth on a big, hard swim bait? Do I start becoming this swim bait dude? That's my next goal, is catch a smallmouth on a big swim bait.
All right. So you want to think about this more. So I'm looking at these things. I mean, I'm not surprised that they cost as much as they do.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of them are special handmade works of art. So obviously, any piece of art, you're going to pay more for something that has all the time and labor and love essentially put into making it.
So what's your limit on how much you'd spend on a single bait?
$40 maybe. That's where I'm looking at, a Rashi, probably the Storm Arashis, which are, $30 to $40 depending on where you look for them. I think the Mollix ones go around the same price.
I am so convinced that I would throw this thing once and I would lose it. I know that would happen.
Oh, that is the scary
I'd be that
part.
guy that would jump into the water, like the girlfriend or the wife loses the rod into the lake and the husband jumps in because that's his favorite lake or his favorite rod. That would be me.
Here's my fear along the same lines, is that you're casting out bass fishing, and we talked about it last week. John Resnick caught his first muskie as a bycatch bass fishing.
Yeah.
You're out bass fishing, and there's that big muskie. I'm fishing 12-pound fluorocarbon, and that big muskie comes, and that 12-pound fluorocarbon is basically like a string to it, and ping, there goes your $200 swim bait. That's what scares me, where I'm like, I can't dip my toe. Like, I can't. I'm too cheap, basically. I'm too cheap.
Yeah, I am too. I'm all about reasonable things.
But man, these guys that are into it, they are hardcore. And that's why I use the phrase cult-like, because they are just like dedicated to swim bait fishing. And I bet you go on YouTube right now, you search out, you can find people that are like just hardcore swim bait dudes. But you should check out swim bait culture. It's actually kind of cool. Like, just to go through that Facebook page that they've got set up and just look at pictures of people posting different baits that they have. I mean, or you go to, what is it, swimbaitculture.com. They've actually got a website you can go on and see and shop for stuff and swim baits, and it's kind of cool. I dig it. I dig what's behind it, because it's all about passion and that focus and that dedication, which was right along the lines with musky fishing last week. That's what, after we had the conversation, it clicked in my head. I'm like, oh, we got to talk about swim bait culture.
Yeah. No, that's interesting, man. And I think that I've always, how do I say this? I guess what I've always thought is I guess I have not made the transition from I want to catch a lot of fish to I want to catch really big fish. You know, I guess there's always a time and a place for it. Like my Cancun trip this year, I wanted to catch a monster fish. Like, that's what I wanted to do. I knew that they would be there to help me, you know, put the right stuff in the water, put me in the right spot, really have potential for that. I think for me, fishing is so much more about catching quantities of fish.
Okay.
I think that's kind of my jam, is that I'm not, I'm happy to catch a 12, 15, 18, 20-inch largemouth, but I like to catch a lot of fish. I like to be busy when I'm out on the water, you know?
I think most people are that way, actually. I think there's the general standard fishing public is that way. They just want to catch fish and want to enjoy.
That's what they're going out for. They want to be able to reel it in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know that's where I guess I've never really ventured down the musky fishing path, because
you're gonna. I
want to be
summer.
Active.
You're gonna soon.
I know. I'm ready for
Vince,
that.
He definitely wants to get both of us out with him, and I'm excited about that. I really want to get out and do some fishing with those guys. So, yeah,
it's all about finding the fish, though. And now that we're both on our way to doing that with our electronics.
We talked about it earlier in the show. I did this whole custom new build over. We mentioned last week to kind of start the show. Like, just when I thought I was ready to go to get into fishing, with being the opener in the state of Wisconsin today, that I was going to be ready to launch and go, and I had all my baits organized. Everything was all set to just plop my kayak and go. And then I get this bright idea, I should build this new custom DIY tackle case, crate, power box, all-in-one situation. And, because I've done a bunch of upgrades this season. I'm added the Garmin UHD 93 onto my kayak and some other stuff that I definitely stepped up the game as I'm getting into tournament fishing this year.
Right.
Last year was the feeling out the whole kayak fishing thing and really getting into it. And okay, I got this. I can do this. All the things I've learned from being a co-angler and being in a boat, I can translate to a kayak. And I spent all summer learning, and now I'm ready to get back into, tournament angling. So that's what I do out of my kayak. So I've had to upgrade some stuff. Where's I going with this? I totally lost my train of thought.
I don't know. Talking about finding fish, I guess.
I was just talking about the changes in the upgrades. I was going to say, you've done the same thing with your kayak, because you're going to really start dabbling hard into kayak. I mean, I shouldn't say hard into kayak fishing, but get a little more into it.
I'm trying to be more advanced. I want to. It's so funny, because when Sherry got me this fish finder for Christmas, she said, it kind of, I don't know if it made me feel bad or it just made me proud of her that she wants me to catch bigger fish. Okay. She said, I was not expecting it, and she just kind of went out, and that's what she got for me. And she's like, I want you to be able to find fish. I want you to have more fun going out fish finding.
Has she ever used phrases like, you seem like you're crabby, you seem like you're upset?
Sometimes.
But what you should
often
do? You should go fishing. That might make you feel better. I feel like that might have been she's trying to encourage you, going, you don't feel good. You should, because my wife's done it. She's like, I know that you need to do the things that enrich you, make you feel good. She knows, sometimes I got to get out in nature. Even if I just got to walk around and touch trees, I got to get outside, and that makes me feel better. She'll be like, just go.
The only thing she knew was that she knows that I love Garmin products. Like
Okay.
any kind of electronics, like whether that's for cycling or running or whatever, it's always been Garmin products. So she knew that's where it would be. She's like, okay, well, this Striker 4 is like a nice kayak option. She's like, I just feel bad. I want you to be able to catch more fish. And I'm like, so what do you think? I just don't catch fish was my initial reaction.
Yeah, it's kind of like the stereotypical husband buys the wife the treadmill. I did it, but my wife insisted when she told me for Christmas a couple years ago she wanted a treadmill. I said, I am not buying you a treadmill. And she's like, no, but I really want it. And I'm like, okay. So, like, yes, I bought my wife a treadmill, and I joke about it all the time, but she insisted that that's what she wanted.
Right.
So, yes, that's how we have a treadmill in our house, which I use from time to time.
Yeah. And then the conversation continued, and she says, well, I don't think I've ever seen you catch a fish in your kayak. I'm like, are you drinking? Because you've taken a picture of me with a bass that I caught while you were 20 feet away from me. So I think it's all just kind of smoke and mirrors at some point. But I thought it was super nice that she went out of her way and she got that for me. So yesterday, I finally ordered the power pack, started kind of putting it all together. We'll probably talk about that more in the coming weeks once I actually get it set up.
So you got the Garmin Striker 4.
Yep.
You're powering it with the
Yak
Attack, the Nakwa. Was it a...
Yeah. The
is that
private
the
label
10 amp hour small pack?
It is a 10 amp hour. Yeah.
That's a great little battery pack.
Oh my God, it's perfect. I mean, it's like the size of your fist, which that was what I really wanted. Was just something that I could just pull in and pull out, obviously cart topping, to and from the lake. I wanted to be able to pull everything out. 10 amp hour. I mean, honestly, I think it's 0.4 or 0.5 amp hour draw for that Striker, and that's all I'm going to be running on it. I mean, that's 20 hours of fishing. That's basically a weekend of fishing for me. If I go both days, all day, most likely 2 weekends worth of fishing for me on one charge.
I think I can probably get, between running my cameras and my Garmin, I probably get about 2 days out of my 20 amp hour amped battery. That So it's perfect, man. I mean, it's exciting because, the fishing openers, which we kind of talked about last week and coming into this. So, it's such an odd thing that it's just kind of like the start of summer, but really you can kind of fish all year round. I never really understood that. It's just... I got the press release, speaking of the fishing opener here, from the DNR and giving their fishing forecasts.
Yeah.
They say, based on early season fishing reports, they project anglers across the state will have successful opening weekend. Despite the slower spring thaw, which there's still lakes in the northern part of the state that have ice on them, so there will be no fishing up there. I guess where you can find it, maybe. But
right.
What are they talking about? Panfish should be in warm, shallow water near trees and stumps through the late warm-up. They might be sluggish, but expect to catch some perch in weedy bays and mouths of smaller tributaries around the Winnebago system. They give details on this, and I'm like,
wow.
Where are you finding warmer water? Define warm water to me, because I don't know anywhere that water temps are above mid-50s.
Yeah, interesting.
Even on small inland stuff, it's cold out there. So I'll be curious how it is. And so if you're listening to this, again, we mentioned before the cool new feature of that talkback that's been added to the show. If you're listening on the free iHeartRadio app, you can press the little microphone that's there and send us a voice memo. Want to hear how your opening of fishing went or how fishing has been for you lately, and not just in Wisconsin, everywhere in around the Midwest. Just because we're here in Wisconsin, we tend to talk about a lot of Wisconsin things, but anywhere in the Midwest you've been, because we all know that we all travel different places and experience different things. I think it's going to be kind of a cool way to expand this community is having that talkback that you can easily share through that, or again, hit our socials. At On The Tailgate for Tailgate Talk. I'm at The Real Ritter, like fishing reel, REEL. Wisco Bow Hunting is where you can find Eric Tasker. Walleyes, they say the delayed walleye spawning in the northern parts of the state will likely have fish hanging around shoreline habitats. Anglers can expect to find plenty of walleye over 15 inches in the St. Louis River, its estuaries, Lake Superior, South Shore. I'm like, again, there's so much ice up there. I don't know. It's almost like I'm wondering... Love you, Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources. Do you just have this and you send the same thing every year? I'm going to keep this saved and see if it says the same things next year. That's what I'm doing. That's my sealed envelope, as I call it.
From this year to next year, yeah.
I'm going to save this, and when I get the same press release of the general fishing season, which they give their standard tips of, make sure you have a PFD, make sure obviously you have your license and the correct licenses, and you're following all of the Coast Guard rules for if you're on, a bigger body. Well, I think anytime you're fishing anything Lake Michigan, that includes the Bay of Green Bay, all that. You have to have all of your proper safety equipment. No matter what kind of vessel you're in, if you're on the water, you've got to have obviously your PFD, you've got to have throwable, you've got to have your fire extinguisher, you got to have a whistle or flare gun. Like you got to make sure you have all of your stuff. So that's their warning they give out, which we try and give out those warnings too. But just be smart. Make sure you know the laws. Make sure you know the rules. But I will not be fishing until next weekend. So that will be my opening of fishing season. Unless some weird circumstance situation the next couple of days, but I'm planning for sure it's happening next weekend. We've got Kenny Chesney in Milwaukee for a show. I'm going to fish the morning and Chesney in the evening. It's already been cleared. It's been checked off.
It's a good day, man.
I's have been dotted. The contract is signed. We're going to fish. We're going to Chesney. I feel like while I'm on the water, though, instead of flying my orange safety flag on my pole, I'm going to fly my No Shoes Nation flag.
Yeah.
Just for that day. I feel like I'm going to have to.
That's cool. Nothing wrong with that. I'm sure people get it.
But yeah, so I think as we're going to wrap up the show this week, if, again, you want to get a hold of us, again, we'll be giving out our socials, @On the Tailgate, @The Real Ritter, @Wisco Bow Hunting. You can use that talkback mic on the iHeartRadio app. We'd love to hear your stories of wildlife inside your home or just generally how fishing's been going for you. So until next week, thank you for tuning in to Tailgate Talk.